she's coming after half of his money, half of his earnings, or half of his wealth, whatever you may call it. And we don't know the story here at all. Like, there's a law in New Zealand that if you guys basically, live together for 3 years, and you're considered married. And then it just seems like she's kind of just gold digging, trying to get something out of him for dating him. And I can't imagine what it feels like. I bet it must suck that you date this guy and 4 years later, he's even bigger than he was 4 years ago, and I mean, if I was that girl and you fumbled that bag for who knows what reason, then I would be pissed too. And I would want some of that money, but it doesn't work like that. Hey guys, welcome to the False Line Podcast here with episode 137. It's Tuesday. Yeah, it's Tuesday. It's Monday for me. I was like tripping. Episode 137, very sportsy podcast. I know last episode was a little bit different. Didn't do so good. I don't know if that's because of the change of topic, but who knows? But those who listen, I appreciate you guys. Those who are tuning in, welcome to the show. Returning viewers, welcome back. New viewers, hey, how are you? I hope you enjoy this episode. It's going to be literally, we got some boxing, we got some UFC, we got some drama, we got some soccer, football. So let's get right into it. This weekend, we had Romero against Ismael Barroso. And this fight is kind of funny. And, not funny, not like did the joke out of it, but this guy Ismael, he doesn't look like a boxer. He looks like an old man who's still boxing and should probably be retired. But I mean, kudos to him for keep trying to fight and fight someone like Rolly Romero. So this fight was scheduled this past weekend on Saturday. And I remember when I saw the weigh-in, I was like, damn, this is weird. Like, you got this 20-year-old kid and then you got this guy who's like 40. So that was kind of funny, and that's the funny part about it. It gets even more funnier because the fight comes and Rolly gets dropped by this guy, and he gets dropped pretty clean. And you kind of just, the first thoughts, I was like, dang, Rolly, like, he's a flop, like you're a flop. You talked your way to fighting Tank Davis, and I think Tank Davis knew he wasn't that good, and that's why he took the fight and on the terms they did versus someone like Ryan, especially Rolly being so good. I mean, not so good, so big. And they fought, I believe, at 140, if I'm not mistaken. So Rolly gets dropped, and then the way the fight finishes too, it was just this weird stoppage. Ismael Barroso, he got pushed, and that was it. And then Rolly was just throwing some, and the ref stopped the fight. Who knows why the fight was stopped? But I mean, Rolly was probably gonna finish that fight. I was pretty confident about it. The old man was looking kind of tired and just gassed out, and looked like Rolly was fading away, becoming just getting the job done or getting the W. So it was a very weird fight. Even when Rolly dropped Barroso, looked like he was already going down. He just kind of stuffed him down. So who knows if he would have got dropped or not. But anyways, fight got stopped. And the only thing I can think of is just like, being old at that age, like, is the ref talking to you before the fight, like, hey, like, if you're looking like this, I'm gonna stop the fight. If your eyes are over here, if your head's, whatever, you're doing this, I'm gonna stop the fight. Who knows, what they talk about before the fights. And I'm sure the referee had his reasons why he stopped the fight. I know I would be more cautious with somebody who's a little bit more older and, kind of just, you don't know where they stand, like health wise, you just referee for that night and, whatever. So, maybe it was a safety thing. Who knows what the referee and that team was, talking about, because I know that stuff happens. So, not a pretty win for Rolly Romero, but he did call out Ryan Garcia, which I think it's a fight that should happen. And just another thing that I think is important for both these fighters, that to make that fight happen, is that if right now both of them are kind of like trendy hot names. And to be honest with you, we don't know if Ryan Garcia or Rolly Romero are really at that elite level to compete with someone like Gervonta Davis, Devin Haney, Lomachenko, like those guys. I think those are top dogs in their divisions. And it's just like, if they're really not that good, people are going to start to discover that in, future fights. So, if they make this fight pretty soon, then you ideally knock off or you beat a top contender, a big name, or just a popular name. It just brings the winner more attention, and it'll put them back where they need to be, for Rolly or Ryan, for both of them, because I think they're both in very similar situations. So that fight should happen. I think Ryan, beats Rolly, but that fight should happen because it would be a very entertaining fight, a lot of shit talking. It'd just be interesting to see, the build up and then the day of the fight. So I think that's a fight that the fans should get, and hopefully we get it this year. Who knows? Maybe we get it for Christmas or for New Year's, so that'll be exciting. So I think Rolly was gonna win either way, but just the way it happened, it's just like, dude, like, it just looks sloppy. But I think he knew he was gonna win. That's why he wasn't tripping. Old man, homie was like, yeah, I could have kept going, but I was like, nah, bro, you was gonna get KO'd eventually. It looked like it. So very controversial win. We have another controversial win, and I'm only want to talk about this fight. Don't really care about all the other fights, but KSI versus Joe Fournier. And the only reason why I want to talk about this fight is because KSI, he has beef with Jake Paul, and we'll get there. So I didn't watch the fight, but I heard about it, and I just seen KSI elbow the guy. So clearly didn't try to elbow him, but it was an elbow, and they called it as a KO. So KSI got the KO dub, and everybody was like, that was a freaking that was a knock to the nose, an elbow to the nose. And I'm surprised they didn't pick it up right away on like right there before they gave it, like, let's watch the replay real quick, let's see what happened, and then make the decision versus just like a KO right away. And I was like, what the fuck? So and then the fact that KSI still like ride it with that, like, yeah, I knocked him out, blah blah, like, I got the W, I got the job done. It's like, bro, that's not what happened, and who knows how that fight would have turned out. I don't know how good this Joe guy is, and I honestly don't know how good KSI is. So yeah, very controversial win, and it's just ugly how KSI is celebrating it, and he's getting a lot of hate, a lot of backfire for it. I'm not a big fan of KSI. He's a bit annoying, so I'm kind of like not happy, but I'm like, that's what you get, kind of backfire. And then it's backfiring because he's celebrating this win, and I'm sure he already apologized or made a video or something about I was wrong or whatever. So they need to run it back. And I do want to mention that KSI is not at Jake Paul's level, like nowhere near. So if that fight ever was to happen, and I feel like KSI, that's all he's chasing is the fight with Jake Paul, and he's draining as much money as he can right now to when that fight comes, because after that he's not going to do this Misfits. And to be honest with you, Misfits only exists right now is because of KSI and like that group of people that are wanting to fight and put on these pay-per-view events. If you think about it, KSI, the only reason why he's boxing is because Jake Paul is bugging him to fight and to box, and now he's like, okay, fine. And I mean, I would have done it too. Like, you're getting a bag now, and then the bags that he's making on each event, I'm sure he's making a lot of money. And then when he makes that Jake Paul fight, like crazy ass money fight, and after that, who knows what happens to either of them in their boxing influencer careers. So, but I don't think KSI is there. Did I want to bring up? I guess I'll bring up Sal Papi. I watched that fight, which was a little bit disappointing because everybody, he has hype around him, and he kind of just did not do anything against this guy. And that guy was kind of funky the way he boxed, but he had no answer. So that was very unfortunate for Sal Papi because I know he has a lot of fans and a lot of people like him. So didn't get the job done. I mean, they were talking about how they should have made it a longer fight, and they probably should have because it was hard. But who knows how? Like I said, these fights are for pure entertainment purposes. So makes sense. But we'll see him back, and he should run it back with that dude and fight him again. I know Tommy Fury was there, and he got into it with some people. So, yeah. So 2 controversial wins that probably shouldn't have been given the way they did, especially the KSI one. That one should have just been like a no contest or disqualification. And then, I mean, the Rolly one, they should have just let that fight continue on. We got UFC Fight Night. I watched some of the fights. I didn't get to watch the main fight, but it's okay because I didn't really care for it. I really wanted to watch Johnny Walker fight, and that's a fight that I really want to talk about. But I do want to mention Daniel Rodriguez versus, I want to say it's Ian Garry. Just kicked kicked him pretty good, and then and KO'd TKO Danny Rodriguez, and it was like not a big deal, but it was kind of tough because I think Daniel Rodriguez has like a big fan base, and like he's trying to. You could tell that the UFC wanted to make him like not like a star, but like they wanted to push him and kind of root for him to work his way up to, to sell pay-per-views. Like people liked him, so the UFC is gonna, they know that, and they were trying to do that, and then he gets TKO'd like that. So the UFC kind of realizes like, hey, maybe we shouldn't, put our focus too much on this guy now. Like he has to be good enough, and maybe he's not like there yet, or maybe he's not there at all. Who knows? But kudos to the guy who won, which is Ian Garry. Very impressive win. So, good for him. I don't know too much about him, so I don't want to talk about it. But I just want to say how it was kind of sad and disappointing how Daniel was, just got laid out like that. And then it was kind of interesting to see how at the end Dana kind of said something to him like, hey, I don't even know what he said, but he talked to him at the end, which was pretty nice. But it's just like, are you saying that because we're not going to see him fight again? Or is it just kind of like, being knocked out like that? Or who knows? But hopefully we see him back and fighting and healthy and strong. Do want to talk about Johnny Walker and Anthony Smith, because this fight was different. And I only want to say it's different because Johnny Walker, he, what is it called? Like, he had a lot of hype around him. And then he got knocked out. I forgot by who, and I forgot who he's gotten beaten by. But Johnny Walker, he's very entertaining, very groovy, has a charisma around him, and to me he's likable, and he's goofy. He's just goofy. He's kind of look like he's having fun, or he's trying to have fun in the ring, and it looks like he's doing that, and he's showing that through his fights and when he's walking out, and how he's like the way he celebrates to win. So and then you got Anthony Smith, who's been in the UFC for a long time, and I got to see Anthony Smith in Dallas, and then I know that he's fought against John Jones, which was pretty crazy to think about. So he's a tough dude. I think he's like towards the end of his career just towards the end of his career. The guy he lost to here in Dallas, I believe, had a controversial tie against Blachowicz, so I can't really say his name. But and then and I think Anthony Smith also got hurt that fight. So coming into this fight, I think it was a good test for Johnny just to see where he stands, because I know he got knocked out pretty rough on one fight, and I forgot what other fight that I believe he lost. So it was a good, I guess, like point of view or an understanding, like where does Johnny Walker stand? How good is he in the UFC? Because he's clearly not this good, but we don't know how good he is. Like, is he this? Like, where does he stand? Because he's not here. So where does he stand here? So getting that win, I think it puts him like top 5 for sure in the lightweight division. So I think he needs to fight. Not that he needs to, but he should fight. I know Jamal Hill will be in the champion, or even Alex Pereira. I know they're both Brazilian, so I don't know how that would work out for both of them, which I think they don't have any correlation, so it should be fine with them. We got Yuri still. We got Chimaev, who knows who's he going to fight. I know there's rumors about him and Usman, so that's exciting, but I don't want to talk about that yet. So we don't know where Johnny Walker, stands. Back to that. And him getting the win, and it was a very dominant performance. I know Dana White said that there was nothing impressive about Johnny Walker, but I think there was nothing that blew your mind. But I think you saw he looked great as far as like built wise. He looked strong, he looked healthy, he looked big, and he looked sharp in the ring too. There was a few things he got caught, but his striking is really nice. I'm not sure how his ground game's pretty good. Anthony Smith has good ground game, so he didn't get like manhandled or just tossed around in the ground. But I think he's an overall good guy, or like a good, good guy as far as performance wise. Like he's pretty good. We just don't know how good he is and how he handles adversity, or a really tough fighter. And I think the next fight's really going to show who Johnny Walker is and if he can or cannot make a title run or like a solid one. Because he was up there. He was getting towards that, and they were pushing him towards that. But then I forgot who he lost to, and it just didn't work out for him. So, and I believe he lost to Chimaev. If I'm not mistaken, he lost to Chimaev. But I don't know. And I don't really want to look it up. But, yeah, he got the win. He did really good. Oh, the thing that I want to talk about. So in the middle of the fight, Anthony Smith was telling Johnny Walker, like, you attacked my family or something like that. Like, and Johnny Walker, first of all, doesn't speak English like that. He's Brazilian. So Johnny Walker's like, what? And you can hear him talking during the fight, and we're like kind of confused. And they're like not fighting. They're just like touching up on each other. And they're like just having this conversation. And then like, people were like, what was being said? And, the internet picked it up and it started saying it. And it's just like how Anthony was saying basically why you attack my family or go to my house. And people were referring to the time when some intruder went into his garage and, who knows what his intentions were, but, being that late, like 4 or 3 in the morning, your intentions are probably not good or positive. So he was referring to that, and people are wondering, like, why was he referring to that? People said PTSD or which was wild. I don't think it's PTSD at all, because I saw an interview years before when this happened, and Anthony Smith basically tells us that, there was this guy, on something going around houses, trying to open doors, trying to open car doors and just trying to get people's cars and houses. So Anthony Smith's garage was open. So this guy went into the garage, and Anthony Smith, I don't know if he heard him or he saw it on the camera or what happened, that he happened to be there. And he put the guy out, he said, and I don't know what they did to him, but he ended up in the hospital. And honestly, I don't think Anthony Smith has PTSD, just because this guy, he looked like, a young dude, like 19, 20 years old, just being an idiot. And I mean, Anthony Smith was just probably worried that he had a gun or something or a knife, and he just didn't want to get his family hurt, which makes sense. And anybody would react like that. He just ran into the wrong guy. So I don't think it's PTSD. I don't think that keeps Anthony up at night. I think he was going through it in the fight, and he was just trying to find some motivation. And he was looking at Johnny Walker, and he was probably like, putting this picture in his head, like, oh, this is the bad guy. This is the guy who was trying to attack my house, blah, blah. So I think that's what happened. I don't think it was PTSD at all. But it was still pretty interesting that you see a guy that, he's like 30-something years old, and he's saying these things to himself or even out loud that anybody can hear to show that, like, he's digging, he's digging inside to find out, like, how can I turn things around in this fight? And that was his method of doing it, which I think is very relatable to a lot of us. So especially the people that like compete. I know growing up when I was a little kid, I'd be like, oh, it's a buzzer, or like there's only 5 seconds left on the clock, or this is the last shot of the game and you're going to take it. Stuff like that, And I think that's what he was doing. So let's get to the sauce of the podcast. Israel Adesanya and his ex-girlfriend, which we're not going to say her name because she doesn't deserve it. So she's coming after half of his money, half of his earnings, or half of his wealth, whatever you may call it. And we don't know the story here at all. Like, we don't know what their dating, I guess, life was, or how their dating was in general. Like, we don't know. So I'm going to give you a brief overview on, and why is this even, possible. So I believe they publicly made their relationship public. They made the relationship public. They made the relationship public in 2019 after he beat Whitaker. They took a picture and people were like, oh, who is this, blah, blah. So that's when you can say, like, we knew as fans, as MMA fans, whatever. So it's 2023 right now. That was 4 years ago. There's a law in New Zealand that if you guys basically, live together for 3 years, then you're considered married in the country, I believe, of New Zealand. Or the state, I don't know. I'm assuming it's a country. So it is a country. I'm tripping. So it's a country. So that's the law. Basically, you got to live together and it's called facto, for 3 years, and you're considered married. And they were never married, and they did not have kids as far as we know. So it's kind of crazy for her to be coming out, and trying and basically just take him to court. And recently we had the whole Hakimi and his wife thing, which I think it was a little bit different, like very, very different. And we're watching a trend, you can say. We had the Amber Heard and I forgot the guy's name, Johnny Depp. We have Hakimi. We get Andrew Tate blowing up. So I think it puts it puts the whole internet in a weird situation where you kind of have like boys versus girls. It feels like that, to be honest with you. Like, oh, or a guy this, or girls, their empowerment, and guys like, oh, I don't need to do this. Like all this to me, it's just a whole bunch of noise and a whole bunch of bullshit, to be honest with you. But for this situation, I think it's kind of goofy and it's kind of sad because clearly, again, they were not married and didn't have kids, and it just seems like she's kind of just gold digging, trying to get something out of him for dating him. And I can't imagine what it feels like. I bet it must suck that, you date this guy and 4 years later, he's even bigger than he was 4 years ago, and I mean, if I was that girl and you fumbled that bag for who knows what reason, then I would be pissed too. And I would want some of that money, but it doesn't work like that. And that's the problem, that some females, unfortunately, do think it works like that. And I do want to say, I don't understand, like, why some females feel entitled, like just that instant entitlement, as girlfriend and boyfriend, just dating. I think it'd be crazy that if I was dating somebody and then even like, think about it like this. If Izzy wasn't famous, would she still be coming after his money? In the same situation, it's like, no, there's just no way. There's no way. Clearly, like, she's gold digging or trying to get a bag, and I would have some sympathy, for the girl, like if they had kids or if they were married or even if they lived together for a while, because, what if we don't know, like, we don't know the story. We don't know what the guy did. We don't know what the girl did. And, and the law is the law. I think it's kind of lame that, that like there's a law that, hey, because you guys live together, this is the rule. Like you guys are married and after 3 years, like all that's half is hers now, or she's entitled to, basically fight for that. Or if you guys divorce, to fight for that. So that's kind of lame. And, we have a common law here in Texas, which it's kind of the same thing. You live with someone for 3 months and if you guys, it's like considered married or something like that. So, and those laws take place and they're there to protect the guy and the girl. And most people might think like, oh, it's there to protect the female. And it might, that's just the way it works, but it's there to protect both parties, I think. So that's that. Now, what I do want to say about it is that I think she shouldn't get anything. Maybe a small, very small settlement, like $500, like things like, I'm just being real. Now, if her and Izzy were dating and maybe she was, cooking for him or doing this and doing that, and they were living together and like, they were together for a long time. And, even like if it's 4 years ago, they were still dating, but she was staying at home, helping them, living together, all this stuff, going with him in the camps, looking out for him, acting almost like a wife or as a partner. I don't think that's like girlfriend thing. I think that's like more like partner things, and it makes sense. And then things fall off, and like I understand, like fuck, I wasted 4-5 years of my life, traveling with you, feeding you, taking care of you, blah blah, and not like a waste of time, but in the relationship you're gonna feel like that, like because that's gone now. You can't get that time back. You lost it. When you try and get the time back with the money that you get in a divorce or a house, whatever you may get. And I get it, because you cannot get that time back. You want to try and get something out of it, and I'm assuming that's why they have these laws and rules into place for these situations. Because can you imagine you're with somebody for 5-10 years, then things fall off, you have no job anymore, and I mean you have no job, you were just supporting this person, helping them chase their dream, being the best partner or wife or even husband that you could have been, and then it doesn't work out. So then, like, now you're just like you got to start from zero, and that's tough. And I understand why somebody would want to take you to court and be like, hey, you wasted, I did this with you for 5-10 years. I even contributed to the business or to your success. So I do want and need a piece of that pie to basically get my feet running. And there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with that at all. And I think that's how it should be. And I think that's fair. And I think that's fine. Obviously there's prenups and things like that your partner and you could agreed on too, as well. And I want to put my 2 cents in there too, because like I mentioned earlier, like there's a weird thing going on, on the internet where there's this woman empowerment, and Tate started like this whole movement with guys like, I don't even know what to call it because it's just going to sound gay as fuck, to be honest with you. But you got a group of guys just like almost like guy empowerment, and it's kind of sad and it's kind of lame, like very lame. And I want to start off like, if you have certain expectations of a person, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it, But you got to find somebody that you guys can mutually compromise, because you have to compromise in a relationship. That's just how it works. You can't do what you've always been doing and expect the other person to be happy and then you to be happy as well. Like, it just doesn't work like that. You got to adapt and then compromise and figure things out, throughout the way. So I think you got to start off by finding somebody that you're attracted to. And this is tough. This is why shit doesn't work out for people. You gotta find someone you like, that you're attracted to, like instantly. Like, dang, like she's good looking or he's good looking. Then on top of that, like you gotta like being around them. You have to like being around them, and then you gotta like find out, like, are you willing to compromise with this person? Like, are you willing to open up a little bit more? Are you willing to come home earlier? Like, whatever it may be. It may be, but you gotta want to compromise with this person, and then and then after that, like, and those things. I mean, that's just those things, but those 3 things. But it's very difficult. So and then if you're if you're one of those persons or people that think, oh, I need a guy or a man that makes this much money, or I need a woman that looks like this, whatever it may be. But if you bullshitting, like, as a guy, bullshitting, like just doing bare minimum to get by, and you have these expectations, like, that's just not how it works. If you have these expectations, like, you better be holding yourself accountable too. Like, that's just how it is. Same thing with the girl. Like, if a girl want a man that does this, you better like hold it down and be a real ass woman. Like, that's just how it is, and just know, and know, like, just know the person that you're gonna date. Because most guys that have a lot of money, they don't tend to be the nicest people ever, or in general, they just don't. They tend to be, shitty, or just talk to a lot of girls, things like that. So you kind of just got to know what you want and what you want to do, really, with this person and the person that you want to date. And in Izzy's situation, he's like, he didn't want to date this person that just come back into their life and being just completely negative, and it kind of just sucks for him. Because, you don't want him to go through that. Luckily, he's going through this. It seems like he's going through this after the fight, but we don't know how much of his personal life was affected, like how much this been going on. And it sounds like it's been going on for a while now, like a few weeks. So who knows? But I don't want to see. It's just so sad. You're like, oh, another female this. Because you had Hakimi's wife, blah, blah, and then Amber Heard. So, and the guys, I think guys just feel like, oh yeah, like women and girls are getting exposed, like they're so shitty with men and blah blah, and it's not. I don't think it changes anything. I think it changes things, and it sucks because for guys are gonna be like, oh blah blah, and it's just like, bro, you're just making things more difficult. So instead of you just being a real ass dude or a top G, communicate, talk to your partner, and figure shit out. Like, that's some real ass shit. Not like, oh, she need to do this. Like, it's just not how it works. So, if you're one of those dudes, you're not gonna be happy, and you're not gonna be happy with your partner. Just being real. And same thing with girls. Like, if you want a guy, blah blah, but you're not holding yourself accountable, or you're not willing to compromise, then it's just not gonna work out. So that's that. Champions League. We got some campeones. We have Real Madrid. Well, no, that's the second game. We have Inter Milan versus AC Milan. We have basically all the seasons, all the leagues, all the leagues, not seasons. All the leagues are wrapping up around the world, and we're going to talk about Champions League and really just Mexican League, but a little bit about, the Italian League. They just got their champion. Netherlands League just got their champion. Liga Spanish League or Liga BBVA just got their champion, which is Barcelona. And Napoli won in Italy. Feyenoord won in Holland. And we're still waiting to make sure that, City becomes champion in their league. So Inter Milan versus AC Milan. It's crazy because the start of that game, Inter just got right into it and put 2 goals in net, I think, within like 20 minutes. If not, it was 15 minutes. So, now you're going into this game. I believe AC Milan is playing home. So you got to go into that game like ripping, like sprinting, like it's just nonstop like this, till you score 2 goals. So, and then on top of that, now you got to make sure you don't get scored on. And you have to score. So all the pressure is against AC Milan. We've seen a lot of teams come back, and they make beautiful comebacks. But usually in a semifinal, it's really hard to come back. It's just hard because the teams you're playing, they're just making very small mistakes. And a team like Inter Milan, they're been in better form than AC Milan. I'm not sure how both of their weekends were and how many players they played, but I think Inter Milan comes on top, and I don't think they score, to be honest with you. If they do score, it'll just be one. It'll just be 1 goal. They're gonna play in the back, try and get the ball forward, just to not basically bring the AC Milan on their side too much, and there's gonna be a lot of gaps in AC Milan, so I think they need to take advantage of that. So Inter Milan, I think, gets the dub. I think they get the job done, and we'll see them in the final. I don't think they'll win the final, but it'd be interesting to see how they do in the final because they're a really good team, and they can perform, and they have really good players. Now, this game should be the final, which is Real Madrid versus Manchester City. And you have one team who has been this close of winning the Champions League, and that they've won everything but the Champions League. They're back-to-back champions in the Premier League, which is the best league in the world. They've won Carabao Cup. They won the FA Cup. The only thing they haven't won is the Champions League, and I believe like the Club World Cup. But you play Real Madrid, which is basically the Champions League dog or the win. I don't know what you want to call it, but they're the best team in the Champions League and like history wise. So there's just something magical about Real Madrid when they play in the Champions League, and we've seen it time after time after time, especially last year. They come back and beat PSG and then City, and then they win the final, which is insane. So, the first result at the Bernabeu, they tie 1-1. Real Madrid started off strong. I think they played poorly that game. I think City dominated, and they should have scored a few more, but Real Madrid's Real Madrid. City played an amazing game, and I think they're going to play an even better game on Wednesday, so I'm so excited to watch them play. And even for Madrid, because, you're going into Manchester City's house, the Etihad, and it's a crazy place in there, especially when you watch those games, Arsenal game, Liverpool game, Tottenham game, like you hear that crowd, and it's just, I couldn't imagine playing against all those Manchester City fans and come out there almost like trying to come out there winning. City's coming in with the advantage, I think, just because they got the away goal. I don't know if away goals count still, but still to get scored on your own house, like it's pretty hard. So Cities shouldn't have any issue scoring on Wednesday. So I think they win like 2-3-0. Things are going to be pure dominance. But we'll see. Like I said, we all know the history and what Real Madrid can do. So it's going to be a really good game, and I'm really looking forward to that, and I'm excited to talk about the results on Friday. So I do want to talk about Liga MX, and that's why I'm wearing this beautiful jersey. I just want to talk about the games real quick, and then we'll talk about Chivas, of course. So we have Monterrey versus Santos. Monterrey came on top, and I believe Monterrey is still the number 1 seed. San Luis versus America. San Luis made it impressive trying to come back. Tigres Toluca. Tigres came on top, and Toluca, I know they try and make a good comeback. Then we had Chivas Atlas. The only game that basically that tied. Everyone else had a clear winner. Chivas tied with Atlas 1-1 in the aggregate, and that's why Chivas advances because they were high position in the table. So not like a clear win, but a win in one game, and they lost the other game, they were away. So real quick, I'm a big Chivas fan, been my whole life. It was very frustrating to watch the game the first 45 minutes of that. Yeah, it was just terrible. Not terrible. It was frustrating because, Atlas was sitting back, just not necessarily chilling, but playing counterattack just the whole game, like almost like Atletico. I like to think of them like Atletico of the Mexican League. So they have two really good strikers. This guy named Quiñones and this guy called Fucci. Really, really good. And they're tall, so they're beating all these little Mexicans in the air. Like there's just no doubt. When they go for those long balls, like they're just gonna always there first. So very Chivas like just not being as aggressive, or at least as aggressive as I want them to be. And Atlas is just chilling, playing good counters, and they still had really good opportunities. But then, and in my head, I was like, bro, like Chivas needs to just start crossing or sending long balls and like these dangerous areas just to show Atlas something different and to get at least Atlas to step out of their defensive like spot, like get these players to shift a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, like have them react a different way. And then the second half comes and they started kind of like doing that. And I remember there was two plays. They moved the ball from the left to the right of the field and then brought it back to the left pretty quick. And Alexis Vega had a pretty good shot, which was nice. Shitty shot, but it was good. I was like, okay, we're getting somewhere here. And, Atlas has vulnerabilities. Like, they're breakable. We can get through them. We can score. So then I think a few minutes later to go by, they play a long ball, towards Alexis Vega again. Same thing, and they get a corner. They get the corner and score, which was like in my head, I'm like, that's how it needed to be done. Like, you kind of just had a overload that basically just Atlas's defense and kind of just have a goal go in. And then, Chivas played like Chivas. They played them. They touched, they moved the ball really well. I just hate when it's time to score a goal, but they played really good. So I'm really excited to see how they do against America. And Atlas is, they're a solid team. They know how to play. They might not have the best players, but they know how to play as a team. And that's just hard to beat. So, we have Tigres against Monterrey on Wednesday, and then we have Chivas America Atlas. So you got two clásicos. You have the Clásico Regio, I think is what it's called, in Monterrey, which is basically Monterrey versus Tigres. And then you have Clásico Nacional, it was basically the Clásico of Mexico, which is Chivas versus America. And earlier this season, we got shitted on by America. We were losing 4-0 by halftime, and I think made it 4-2 by the end of the game. So we're going to try and redeem ourselves and get the dub, hopefully. Predictions real quick on that. I think, honestly, I'd rather see Monterrey in the final if Chivas advances, right? Because we played Tigres in the last final, and we barely beat them. And I don't want them to want to get revenge on us because they're really good. And I also don't think Tigres is good enough to beat Monterrey. So I think Monterrey comes on top. They just might struggle a little bit when they play at the Tigres Stadium. So Monterrey should come on top, though. Chivas America, if Chivas played the way they did the last, like after they scored until like the 85th minute, I think they shouldn't have any issues beating America. But America is a really good team, so we'll see how Chivas does. If they don't fold or choke or bottle it, they'll be fine. But it's going to be exciting. We got an exciting week of football. We got an exciting week of sports, too. I don't really watch basketball, so I don't care. But we have a big fight on Saturday, so I'll be talking about that on Friday. And I'll be talking about basically all the games that already had happened, and I'll talk about the outcome of those on Friday. So hope you enjoyed this one. This one's a little longer than usual for me, so I'm kind of proud of that. If you enjoyed, make sure to like, subscribe, share. Peace.